ABC General Hospital spoilers show that in the dark hallways of Windermere, a risky change has been happening quietly. Britt and Lucas have started playing a much more calculated game than Sidwell or Cullum realize. What used to seem like hesitant agreement has turned into calculated trickery. On the surface, Britt keeps reporting some measurable progress in the experimental project Sidwell is making her finish. Charts get updated, lab notes are kept organized, and the data seems to progress bit by bit. Lucas keeps up the illusion by quietly backing her findings while they talk in controlled settings, making sure Marco's surveillance network can hear. To Sidwell, it seems like control is doing its job. To Cullum, it looks like the pressure is starting to pay off. But underneath that illusion, there's something even more dangerous: misdirection. The adjustment feels spot on. Britt has figured out just the right amount of success to show without making anyone suspicious. If progress goes too far, it could lead to stricter oversight. Doing too little would lead to punishment. Instead, she tells a story that feels real, showing careful steps forward. Lucas knows his part well, even throwing in fake arguments now and then to make it seem like there's real tension. Their act is solid enough that Sidwell eases up a bit, thinking he still has the upper hand because of her medication supply. What he doesn't realize is that the leverage he's been relying on is starting to wear away. The biggest shakeup comes when someone new shows up. Someone working quietly out of Sidwell's sight has started helping Britt and Lucas behind the scenes. This person isn't just showing sympathy, they're actually giving access, getting hold of information, reaching restricted materials, and finding security blind spots in Windermere's old infrastructure. Whoever this person is, they see the castle's weaknesses in ways Sidwell didn't expect. It's a quiet kind of takeover, not something that goes head-to-head with Sidwell, but slowly chips away at him bit by bit. Having this unexpected ally really changes how things play out. Lucas doesn't feel alone anymore with his moral dilemma. Britt doesn't think escape is just a hopeless dream anymore. They start by quietly shifting some experimental resources, just small bits at first, losses so minor no one notices. This lets Britt secretly copy parts of her formula. Lucas changes the paperwork to hide any differences. Data that looks good on paper often has flaws hidden underneath, meant more to buy time than to bring real progress. Every planned mistake carries some risk, but it's one we have to take. The tension inside Windermere is growing heavier. Cullum, always a bit wary, starts to feel like something's just off. He can't quite put his finger on what's wrong, but something about the vibe feels different to him. Sidwell, trusting he's got Britt's medication under control. He doesn't see that the power he holds is shaky. It can fall apart as soon as Britt starts needing it less. If Britt can come up with even a partial backup supply, Sidwell will lose his best advantage. What makes this development so powerful is how it sets off a chain reaction. Marco starts to pick up on the small shift in Lucas. The fear he used to feel has settled into something more steady, more certain. Pascal becomes more watchful. Surveillance is rising. Conversations get quick and to the point. The castle itself feels like it's holding its breath. Windermere used to be a place full of schemes, but now it feels alive with the chance that everything might finally come to light. The unknown ally is still the wild card. Whether it's revenge, loyalty, or something else driving them, their involvement brings an element of surprise. This person seems to know Windermere's hidden hallways, old security systems, and forgotten entrances, which makes you think they have some deep connection to the castle's shadowy history. Just having them around is enough to shake up Sidwell's carefully built empire. And as the lies grow thicker, the risk only gets bigger. If Sidwell finds out even a bit of what Britt and Lucas are plotting, the response will be quick and brutal. The longer the charade goes on, the closer they get to tearing down the control structure from the inside. What started as just going along now feels more like a quiet act of rebellion. The real shake coming from under Windermere isn't the experiment itself, it's realizing that Sidwell might not be the only strategist around anymore. Britt and Lucas have gone from being pawns to actually playing the game, and with a strong new ally shifting the balance. The castle that used to represent captivity now feels shaky and unsure. The tension is obvious now. It's getting tighter. And when the facade finally cracks, Windermere won't just shift, it will shake. Jason is starting to put his plan into motion, but this time it feels more personal than just a strategy. For Jason, this isn't just another mission wrapped up in power games and secret plans. This is about Britt. The moment he found out she was being controlled, manipulated, and medically blackmailed inside Windermere, something inside him shifted. The calm restraint he usually had turned into something sharper, colder, and more dangerous. He's been through wars, betrayals, and close calls with death. But the thought of Britt caught under Sidwell's control has sparked a whole new sense of urgency. Jason knows one thing for sure: waiting isn't an option. Britt and Lucas are walking a fine line. Their tricks might be clever and their fake progress believable. But guys like Sidwell and Cullum won't stand for betrayal. The longer this act goes on, the more likely it is to get found out. If that happens, Britt won't just lose her medication, she could end up losing everything. Lucas, clearly out of his depth in this world of calculated violence, was about to face consequences he never agreed to. So Jason starts moving the board around. Silent. Methodically, he watches the security setups around Windermere. paying close attention to how people move and the blind spots that Cullum thinks are safe. He never rushes into a castle without a plan. Instead, he makes backup plans. He sets up distractions in other places to split people's attention. He makes sure that if extraction needs to happen, it will be quick and final. But this mission has surprises that even Jason can't completely foresee. Sidwell isn't just watching over Britt, he's using her for his own purposes. He has tied her captivity into a bigger plan that could overlap with other power moves happening in Port Charles. If Jason steps in too obviously, he might set off a chain reaction. But standing still is just not how he operates. The tension builds as Jason starts to realize that Britt and Lucas are already caught up in a risky game behind the pass. Scenes. He's impressed by their fake reports, their deliberate delays, and their quiet ways of messing things up, but at the same time it scares him. Deception gets you by until one day it just stops working. And when it doesn't work, the backlash is harsh. The story keeps getting more intense as time goes on. Jason isn't simply organizing a rescue. He's getting ready for a full-on battle. Once he goes after Sidwell and Cullum, things won't settle down quietly. There's going to be exposure, fallout, and maybe even blood. Lucas is definitely the most unpredictable element. Jason can see that Lucas just doesn't fit in with this world. His sense of right and wrong, his doubts, and the fear you can see on his face might all work against him if Sidwell picks up on any weakness. Protecting Britt now means watching out for Lucas too. That makes things more complicated. It brings some risk. It makes Jason think about timing more carefully than he ever has before. At the same time, Britt can feel that something in the air has shifted. She knows Jason well enough to tell when he's working on something bigger than what he lets on. Part of her worries about what might happen. Another part feels comforted knowing she isn't facing this by herself anymore. Lucas is determined but still vulnerable. Jason's involvement brings strength but also causes things to escalate. Cullum starts to notice things aren't quite right. Small interruptions. Small changes in how surveillance is done. He can't track them just yet, but something in him says there's an outside force moving around. Sidwell feels sure about managing Britt's medication but doesn't fully realize how much Jason's presence will stir up. Emotions. He understands how to use leverage. Jason notices a line that just can't be crossed. And that's when the shock kicks in. When Jason realizes someone he cares about is being used as leverage, he doesn't try to negotiate. He takes it apart. If his plan works, Britt might get free, and Sidwell's empire could start falling apart from the inside. If it doesn't work out, Britt and Lucas might end up caught in the crossfire of retaliation. Either way, things are bound to get shaken up. This isn't just a rescue mission. It's a shift in power, a change in who people are teaming up with. This is a statement that Britt is never alone and will always have support. As Jason gets ready to move the tension inside, Windermere feels like a stretched wire about to break. One bold choice might change it all. When Jason makes his move, it won't be quiet, it's going to be loud and fully out there. Britt can feel the danger closing in. And what scares her most isn't her own risk, but Lucas moving closer to the danger. She knows exactly what Cullum can do. She noticed the cold calculation in his eyes, how he sized up threats not as people, but just as obstacles in his path. Lucas isn't prepared for a world full of manipulation and quiet violence. He cares deeply, responds quickly, and has a strong sense of right and wrong qualities that make him someone you respect, but also leave him vulnerable. Britt knows that as soon as Cullum catches on to any lie, Lucas could be the weakest spot to go after. Even though there's a risk, Lucas won't back down. Once he found out what Britt had been through, how they used medication to keep her under control, and Sidwell's cruel grip on everything, there was no going back for him. He might not be Jason or move with tactical precision and deadly confidence, but he has something just as strong, steady determination. Lucas has been pulled into this mess whether he liked it or not. Acting like he doesn't know won't keep him safe. Helping Britt could be the only chance we have to get through this. There's a subtle change happening on the canvas. Since Jason is temporarily unavailable, the usual rescuer isn't around. That gap opens up room and Lucas moves into it almost without meaning to. He may not match Jason in strength, but he makes up for it with his presence. He's right there. He notices what's going on. He just can't walk away. Britt can tell he's changing. The hesitation that used to hold him back is starting to turn into a plan. He looks closely at the patterns inside Windermere. He remembers the staff rotations. He pays attention to which cameras flicker at specific times. He might not have the best combat instinct, but he makes up for it by paying close attention to everything around him. He knows a lot about medicine logistics and how to quietly shape information. That's why he fits this kind of infiltration so well. Cullum might be underestimating him, and that could end up being their biggest advantage. Lucas doesn't seem like a threat. He doesn't have the same sense of danger that Jason does. He seems emotional, torn inside, maybe even a bit naive. But underneath it all, something more steady is starting to take shape. Helping Britt isn't just a quick response anymore, it's turning into a real mission. Britt and Lucas grow closer as they face challenges together. What started as hesitant teamwork slowly turns into a common goal. They start talking in coded phrases, tweaking reports just enough to hold off Sidwell's expectations. Lucas takes careful chances, making small moves that give Britt some extra time. He acts loyal to Marco, playing the part well enough so no one gets suspicious. Every day, the balance of power within Windermere changes just a bit. Jason being gone doesn't make things weak anymore, it just makes everything uncertain. When Lucas steps up, it changes the whole equation. A different kind of alliance is taking shape, one that's based not on force but on steady, quiet resistance. If Jason is the storm, then Lucas is the current flowing quietly underneath. Out of sight but slowly changing everything around. Britt's afraid that Lucas might end up getting hurt just for being by her side. But Lucas knows that staying idle would end up costing him even more. The choice isn't really about safety or danger. It sits somewhere between going along with it and actually doing something. As things get more tense, the alliance grows. Some people might start to see small cracks in Sidwell's control. A few little inconsistencies here and there, delays that don't really have a clear reason. If Lucas manages to help Britt shake up the hold the medication has, Sidwell will lose his main advantage. This isn't a loud rebellion. Resistance grows slowly and carefully over time. Sometimes that kind of resistance is just tougher to break. Lucas probably didn't mean to end up in Jason's shadow, but somehow that's where things landed. As the alliance gets stronger, Windermere stops feeling like a prison and starts turning into a battleground. The danger is real. Cullum is watching. Sidwell is thinking carefully. But Lucas isn't just watching from the sidelines anymore. He's already picked his side. And that choice could change everything.